Hey, I know I'm a bit late now, but happy 4 year anniversary of Glory. I mean, that's awesome, right?
Oh yeah.
Is it
It
crazy?
was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, crazy to think it's been that long now.
I know it doesn't seem like it's very long at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a cool thing though. I saw that. I was like, oh wow, that time flies, huh?
I know.
Yeah, and I'm sure that everyone's been asking you about it, but I got to hear it from you yourself. You just get right into it. The amount of emotion that exploded out of you after your win was just so powerful. I think, at least for me, as someone who's been following your career so closely, and now that you've had time to,
Yeah.
digest it all, how would you describe, the overall 243 experience?
Yeah. I think it was like that fight meant so much to me. So many not just about fighting. That it was like a huge relief, and it was just like I am like, and I've been very honest about saying like I'm my own worst critic. I'm so hard on myself, but like I'm so proud of my performance, and like I'm proud of what I did, and how I did it, and everything, and like how I came through everything that I did, and I got to that point. And a lot of people, when they deal with adversity in some form of another, I think they, they have the option to just run away from it. And I think a lot of people take that because it's too hard. But I confronted it head on, and I changed so many things in my life that I think that it was that night was a culmination of everything that I had been through and I had overcame, and it was a solidification in my mind that I knew that like I am doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you were very obviously super focused for this. Hard not to be, I imagine. Do you think was it maximized being at home because of that, or I'm sure that played a factor, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of made everything all the more, I guess, magical, for a lack of a better
Hmm.
word. Like that, it couldn't have, I couldn't have had a better performance for the venue and for the type of card that it was. Um, I think that it had been so long since I fought in Australia, and it was a big goal of mine for a long time to fight in the UFC on home soil, and finally getting that chance, there was a lot of like emotion coming into that. Just because it was such a big deal to me, but I think we handled it really well. Like I didn't let it get to me, and I just went out there, and one thing I definitely wanted to prove with this fight to myself is to fight to the potential that I know I have.
Hmm.
And even though I showed a lot of things that I haven't had before, I still don't feel like I've shown like a lot of my potential, which is exciting because it means like there's more growth and there's a lot more that I can show when I fight next.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the timing, it does seem like it did line up a bit perfectly, with the glory anniversary a little bit before that, and then you're going home to fight on the biggest card in Australian sport, MMA history, right? So it just worked
Yep.
out pretty good.
Yeah, no, it did.
So yeah, that's just a perfect accumulation. You said it best there, and you flew out a bit early too. I think, right? It's like a week or so. So like,
Yep.
what did the final days of training camp look like? Did you give the old gym a visit at all?
No, like so I went to Melbourne
Okay.
straight away, so I didn't go back home first.
Hmm.
So I went straight to Melbourne, and I've never been to Melbourne before, so like I didn't really like know a lot of people or anything like that there. So that wasn't really like a factor in in that. And I'd kind of like at that point my camp was pretty much done, so I didn't really need to
Okay.
do a lot left training wise, I guess.
Yeah, just kind of staying, I don't know, loose. I guess you could say,
Yeah,
staying
just
ready.
just getting a sweat in, just kind of moving, working the game plan, just kind of just moving the body a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And you had Timbo Slice in your corner this time around. That was the first time, right, that he was in your corner?
That's the first time he's been in my corner, and I think what Paradigm do as a management company is like they don't really ever promote themselves. It is all about their athletes. Like they're never on social media talking shit or like causing any drama. It is just solely about their athletes. And Tim, I've been with them for 2.5 years now, and Tim is like, he's like family. Like I know that we have a brother-sister relationship, and I care about him a lot, and he cares about me. And I think for that moment, like it was just so perfect to have him in the corner and be there and experience that with us, like on our side, and him not just watch and be nervous.
Yeah.
But man, he's such a good guy, and he doesn't get a lot of credit for what he does. Like before that fight, like the week before, he was in Copenhagen.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then went to Ireland, then went back to Copenhagen, and then went straight to Australia. Like he's on the road like almost every week, and he puts 100% into all of his athletes, and I cannot thank him enough for everything that he's done for me as well.
Yeah, big shout out to Tim. He's definitely a great guy.
Yeah.
And very one of the more underrated ones. You make a great point there. Don't hear about some of the people who take a backseat who are actually doing the best work out there, and unlike some people who are making too much noise, maybe.
Udi are like so good at they don't ever like they promote their fighters, and that's it. They don't say anything. They don't say anything negative. They don't talk about anybody else. They just focus solely on like putting their heads down and working for their athletes, and it's not just we're not just a number to them. We're like a part of the family, and I think that's what really like I think separates them from a lot of other companies, and I'm so glad that I'm part of the family.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially with all the recent news of maybe managements fighting each other. We'll leave that alone though. It's its own thing.
Yep.
But
so much drama.
Yeah, very very dramatic MMA. But as for the win though, did you feel even better getting it via submission, or was it just like, I'll take the win, whatever? I know obviously you want to show your ground game, but as for a submission,
it definitely like I definitely I guess like I didn't specifically go for that just because I wanted to prove to everybody else. It was more of like I wanted to prove to myself that I am capable of so much more than I've shown. This is just, and I think one kind of part of it is like training and fighting live is so different. Obviously training, like you have training partners that can take care of you. There's no adrenaline. There's no, people watching, all that kind of stuff. So you have an ability to kind of do a lot more in training because there are no consequences.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I was so nervous and I was so caught up on the result that I didn't put my best performance forward. And I think this time, like, it was more about the journey. And I think, like, MMA is a very results-driven sport. But I think for me, I was so caught up on that it took away from what I know I'm capable of. And I think I just wanted to go out and do what we do in do what I do in training every single day and do it in a live setting. And I think for me, it was more of like getting confidence to know, oh, okay, like I can do this live and it's going to work.
Yeah.
It's like every time you fight, you go in with like a game plan, and it's like having the confidence to, execute it and like just kind of have it like, fuck it, let's just go for it, instead of like worrying about getting hit or what if it doesn't work or what about this. Like, you train for all these different contingencies. Like you train for all these different things to happen that, like, even if I didn't get the takedown, like I've been there a million times before in training. Like, I know what to do. It's just having confidence live to do it. And I think that was more for me. And it is really good that it is a great feeling to kind of shut everybody up, particularly because like everyone said I didn't have a game plan, didn't have a ground game, etc. And I think for people who didn't like know that like I am capable of a lot, like except everybody else on my team, I think they were a little surprised because that transition was a high level transition. Like if you don't know a lot about jiu-jitsu or you're bad at jiu-jitsu, that transition is never going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think the way it kind of happened, I don't know, it was just a big accumulation of everything, and it was just like a big relief. And I think I proved to myself more than anything that I am capable of doing whatever I put my mind to.
And when you put it all that way, it just makes MMA sound like one big over preparation, right? Is that fair to say?
Well, it really is. We train, and that's the thing is there is no off season in MMA.
Yeah.
Like there is like NFL or
any other sport,
NBA
really,
or baseball. Like there is no off season. Like we are training all year round for maybe 2 15-minute like competition spots a year. Like that's 30 minutes potentially in 300 and whatever it is days. 52 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's the lifespan. Like we put our bodies through so much, and we train so hard to improve for such a little competition time that I think people can forget about the journey, and it is so results driven because a win, particularly in my division, I'm always 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot.
Yeah.
But then like a loss is it could be career changing as well. So
Exactly, yeah.
I think there is a fine balance between being results driven and being max effort driven. So I think I say people, and I'm talking about myself in particular, is like I would get so caught up on the result. But I think one thing that we really have changed, particularly with this camp, is the people who care about me are going to be there for me whether I win or lose. Like that is never going to change. And I think for me it was more about my biggest fear was always never fighting to my potential and the potential that I know that I am capable of. And James, my coach, we sat down before this fight, and he's like, look, like if you go out there and you get knocked out somehow, like it could happen. Like this is the nature of MMA. Like anything could happen. Like you have to respect the game. So he's like, that's fine. Like I'm gonna love you regardless. Like I'm here for you. I said, but if you go out there and you put on a performance like I did on my Felicia Spencer fight, and I wasn't all there. I didn't want to be there. He's like, you have to live with that. He's like, all I'm asking is max effort. Like, if you give me your max effort and you still lose, like, I can't ask for anything more. I said, but, if you give me your max effort and you live up to your potential, then, like, that's more of a, it's more of a solidification for me that all my teammates who believe in me, and they see what I don't, that they were right.
Yeah. Yeah, all you can do is try your hardest, really, and then the results will come as they do. So
yeah, if you train hard and you put in the time and you put in the effort, I think, winning is nice. Of course, winning is nice and losing is shit. Like, I am a sore loser. Like, I don't like losing. I said, but it is also, and I think for me, losing has always meant more change for me outside of fighting than I ever was fighting. Because my skills are there. but my doubts were all about myself and how I thought about myself as a person that wasn't a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and that's one thing that I've really been focusing on changing.
Yeah. And I mean, as for other changes, though, I saw that you started doing this also that and nobody seemed to be talking about it. I thought it was very interesting, though. The new training regimen with the Woovement, is that what it was for like spine stuff?
Yep, functional patterns.
Yeah. So how was that?
Yeah, it has been so amazing for me. So a lot of people might not know I have a lower lumbar scoliosis,
Mm-hmm.
which it makes it has which it has made me strong in a lot of aspects, but because of it, a lot of my hamstrings and my glutes and my calves and like a lot of my lower legs aren't actually engaging properly. So Stefan has always been like, he's like, it's crazy that you've kind of gotten to the level that you have with the like dysfunctions that you have.
Yeah.
I'm like, why, thank you. But that's one thing that we changed at this camp, and I feel like I am such a stronger athlete in so many different ways. Like we went into this camp looking at, okay, where do I feel like I get taxed the most? Let's work on building up our strength in those positions. And I think, and one thing I'm really happy about is like, so my spine is actually starting to straighten out, and it's actually, it's been like a really kind of issue for me, like a body issue for me for a really long time, because my spine was like literally curved, and I would always get asked like, oh, do you just train one side of your back? In my head, I'm just like, are you kidding me? I was like, you can't just train one side of your back, you assholes. It is actually being like, I got so many comments about how straight my back is looking, and it's, and the crazy thing is, like, I've only been doing functional patterns with Stefan for 4 months, and I'm excited for what's next. I know there's a few other big, I think there's like a wrestler who does it, like, I don't really know wrestlers, but he's like a wrestler, and he's won a lot of things. He's really well known, who is doing functional patterns as well. And we kind of, not just with that, we started more of like a periodization of training. So instead of doing 100% at every session, one session of my day would be 100%, and my other session would be like a 50% focusing on technique and making sure that I'm recovering for my next 100% session, because I would go in with the mentality that I had to like train 100% every single session. I would be dead by like Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I felt like I've been able to push like even harder in my rounds that I need to. Like I can focus on more of like game planning and improving instead of just dying the whole time. And like I'm not, instead of like not being able to train at my full potential as well. And I think that has helped so much with my confidence as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just being not as worn out, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you get towards the end of the week, like it's your body's still tired and sore. I said, but like I was at the point where it would get to like Wednesday morning, and it was like my 6th session of the week, and my body just didn't want to move. Like I couldn't move. Like I was exhausted, and I was in that state where like I would get so emotional because like my body was just in survival mode, because it wasn't really. I was trying to push it at 100%, but my body was only running at like 50% capacity, like that. So it was frustrating, and I would get super emotional and downhearted because I wasn't able to do the things that I know I'm capable of doing. But since we've changed it up, like a lot of things have changed, and we've seen so many results from that. So I'm happy that we finally have found a system that works for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. But Megan, are you telling me that you should maybe be taller?
Perhaps. Maybe I'll grow an inch.
Yeah, we'll see. That's the big takeaway there. No, I'm just kidding. But I know you also got in touch with the mental coach, right? Sports mental coach. And a
No,
lot of no.
so it was just so one thing that I spoke with James is like my issues had nothing to do with fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing, because I kind of discussed that with him. I'm like, hey, like, do you think I should go to a sports therapist or like go to someone that has no idea about sport? Like, he's like, yeah, like I don't. He's like, you don't need to see a sports psychologist or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, all of my issues are all how I view myself,
Not related
and
to
these are
sports.
issues that I've had since I was a child. And so I see a therapist that is purely just focusing on dealing with my own like demons and my insecurities and all of the shit that I've been through that I've never really dealt with throughout my childhood and my teen years and I think that has been like a huge game changer as well.
Yeah, and I mean, is it kind of hard to, work with that person at first because it's a bit of an acceptance thing, right? Accepting the problems.
Yeah. I'm I avoid I avoid things. I avoid like tough conversations. I deflect from myself very well. I think that's why I have gotten to the point where it was, is because I was so good at like just shoving all like of these issues in like a box and just pretending that they didn't exist. But it got to a point where I
Box got
couldn't
full.
anymore. It was affecting not just me as a person, but it was affecting my fighting as well, and my ability to, just live in general. And I think after my last fight, I knew I had to make changes, and I think one reason why like I have seen such a massive growth in the last year is because I knew that I couldn't run away from this. Like I had to just meet it head on, and it's not going to change overnight, and we're still dealing with issues and working through them. And I guess I'm just like everybody else. I have issues.
Mm-hmm.
I get upset about certain things, piss me off, and I avoid issues and all this kind of stuff. Like I'm just a regular person that's trying to not just become a better martial artist, but be a better person as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we've said it before, but I think that fans of all sports always forget that the athletes are people too. So it's really easy to forget, it seems. So,
Yeah.
but to segue a little bit, I guess you did a project with Nicole Arbour a while back, and I never ended up finding the videos or what exactly the project was. But I mean, how was that experience?
Yeah, that was really cool. So it was that she was doing like a 6-week kind of course thing, that it was like kind of like a private course that you like paid for, and you got like 6 weeks, and they had like a few different like guest speakers, and I was one of them, and that was really cool. Nicole's she's such a trailblazer. I'm so grateful to be able to have connected with her. She's such a good person, and she sticks by what she believes with, and she doesn't make excuses for who she is. She is 100% honest, and she's real. And I think, the way that she is for everybody. She wants everyone to be successful, and she won't put up with shit from people. Like, she stands up for herself and for what she believes in. And I think she's an amazing role model to people, and I'm grateful that I can have helped in some way, helping other people alongside with her.
Yeah, definitely a cool thing. So it was like I don't know, how would you describe it exactly? I'm trying to think here. The project, like
It was like an online kind of interactive course type thing.
Okay. All
So
right.
like they would put out videos, and there was like a theme of the course. It was like how to be successful
Okay.
type thing.
Okay, I see.
How to like kind of get out of your own way and start being successful. So that was kind of the theme of the course, and they would put together, like, people like me would have like a theme, and I would do like a video, and she would post that, and then her and Danelle Delgado, they would also do a lot of like videos, and they would give them homework to do and keep them accountable for, you know, making sure that they're staying on track for those 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's definitely a cool thing. That's awesome. And, just to shift gears back to MMA a bit here, obviously, since we last talked, the UFC and Cyborg parted ways. No need to talk about that. It's a little old, but I'm just curious if you think it's good or bad for the division that Cyborg left after beating Felicia, or is it, not that bad since Nunes still has options with 135 that, fighters like yourself and whomever can kind of emerge while she's doing that?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't really thought too much about it. Like I obviously wish Chris like a lot of success and happiness, and I know that Bellator is taking care of her, which she deserves. She's been a pioneer for the sport for like forever.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what Amanda's doing next after that 135 fight. But I really think that they have people like myself and Felicia and Zarah that they can bring in and really start building the division. They have a few, I really would like to see them kind of bring over some from Invicta. I know they have Pam Sorensen, who's the champ now, Caitlin Young, Faith McMahon. I know they would be great additions to the division, and I think that would be a smart move, bringing those girls in. There's Leah Letson. I know she has kind of had a few fights that she's had to pull from, but I think she would be a great addition to the 145-pound class. But I used to stress so much about whether or not like they were going to keep the division, and I felt like I constantly had to win and put on good performances to keep the division alive. I said, but that's not on me. Like, if they're going to cut the division, it's not going to be because of one person,
Yeah.
And like I'm just doing me. I'm just doing me, training. I fight whoever they want me to fight. I would love to. I know Faith is in New Zealand and they're going to Auckland in February. I think that would be a great fight. So I would love that fight, and I know my management have kind of spoke to me about when I want to fight next, and I want to fight February, March, April-ish. So anywhere in there would be fine. And I always sign the dotted line for whoever and wherever the UFC want me to fight. I think I'm just doing me, and I can't worry about things that I can't control.
Exactly. Perfectly said. And, just to mentioning Nunes, we haven't been getting any Aussie fancies lately, for obvious reasons. You two are both quite busy, but I've got to ask who you think is going to take it between Nunes and Randamie. I'm really excited for that rematch. They've improved a lot since the first fight, obviously.
Yeah. Was it decision? Was it a decision win by Amanda, or was it like TKO in like the second or third round?
No, she ground and pounded her in the first round, just took her down like immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think Jermaine's, wrestling and takedown defense has gone up a lot since that fight, and she's one of the best technical strikers in that division. So it'll be interesting. I honestly haven't thought too much about it to have like an opinion on who's going to win. I think both are incredible athletes, and I think both bring very unique skills to the table. I think Amanda has the power advantage, but I'd say Randamie has like the speed and the trickiness to be dangerous. I'll be interested to see if Amanda tries to take her down again or not, and I think if Jermaine can stop that initial few takedowns, I think it'll be a stand-up, and I think stand-up-wise it kind of plays a little bit more into Jermaine's favor, just because she has been, you know, a phenomenal stand-up fighter for a very long time, and she has like the skills and the comfortability there. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
To see how that goes.
Yeah,
this division is kind of up in the air right now. Like there's not a lot of clear-cut contenders, and there's a couple of interesting fights coming up that I think we'll get like a clear number one contender after this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Do you lean towards wanting Randamie a little bit, just because then it kind of forces Nunes maybe to defend featherweight next?
I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's not I don't even think about that at all.
Yeah.
It's out of my control. I think we kind of get into a habit of like, oh, I wish so this person would do this, so this could happen. Like there's so many odds against that, like working perfectly, that like you can't like put any stock into it, just because like it's so, MMA is such a fickle sport.
Yeah.
Just in the fact that like anything can happen, like one punch can change a fight. And yeah, I would love Amanda to defend her featherweight belt, but like that's the UFC's call. I have no control over that, and I'm just gonna put and I also understand I'm not in a position to. I know I'm 2-2 in the UFC, and I'm only coming off a win, and I definitely think that in my own mind I would like another couple of fights just to solidify my claim for the shot. But if the UFC wants me to fight her next, then I'm not going to turn it down. Like it's been a goal of mine for a long time to fight for a UFC title, and like I'm not going to turn that down.
Yeah.
But I think all I can do is put my head down and work and train hard, and the success will follow when it's supposed to.
Of course. Yeah, I wasn't trying to get you to make any call-outs there. I know you'll fight anybody. I know that. All right, Megan, to shift gears again here, pun intended this time, I was surprised to see you got Gears 5, and you know, I'm like a Gears super nerd, so I gotta ask you what you think about that game.
I like it. So I remember back when the initial one came out.
Yeah.
And so, this is going to be embarrassing. So I don't like scary things, like at all. Like I can't watch scary movies, like anything with like too much like suspense, scary, like I can't handle. So like I had to stop playing the first one because it literally, like I would get so much anxiety because it would scare the crap out of me. All the time.
It's probably the scariest one of the games, honestly.
The first one.
Yeah.
And it like I would start having like panic attacks because like you could tell when something was about to go down because the music would change.
Yeah.
And so I would like freak out all the time. It was just so stressful. I was like, I can't do this. Oh my god. So I hadn't played any of the Gears since then until this one. And I really like it. It's also part of that too is I'm really, really bad at first-person shooters.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like shooting games, I just suck. I'm just so terrible at. But I was like, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to get over this fear of.
There you go.
Of scary games. I'm just like, oh my god, such a little girl. But I fight in a cage, but I'm scared of a fucking video game.
Hey, it's a crazy concept. But, I don't blame you.
I really like it. I really like this new one. I think the graphics are phenomenal.
Yeah.
The gameplay, the way it kind of transitions from like the videos into playing is done really well. They have like a really good storyline. I haven't really got too far into it because I only kind of got it a week before I left.
Yeah.
But I really like it. I just got the I was playing the beta for the Tom Clancy's game Breakpoint.
Yeah.
So I just got the full game that I've got to download. So I'm excited to go do that because I love Splinter Cell and all those type games. So I remember there was this one, I forget which one it was, and like I'd gotten to a point that like I'd auto saved in like the most stupidest like place ever.
I hate
every
that.
time I went to play it, like there was no way that I could get out of this without like dying.
Yeah, you're just like.
And like I got so fucking mad, and so I just quit playing it. I was just like, bullshit. So I played that a little bit when I first got the beta, and again, that like it's so amazing to see how games have like changed over the last 5 to 10 years. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, seriously, it's insane, really. Yeah, I do. It's crazy. It's definitely crazy to think about. But yes, great game. And you know, we talked about WWE a while back. Just what are your thoughts on Cain Velasquez, and have you heard of AEW? Are you checking that out at all?
I haven't checked out AEW, but I'm so excited for Cain. I'm a huge Cain fan in MMA, and man, he's looked fucking amazing in all of his matches that I've seen, and I think this is so awesome to finally get to see him in the WWE. I'm actually going next week.
Oh, nice.
SmackDown's gonna be here next Friday, so that's my first WWE event that I've ever gone to, so I'm kind of freaking out.
Yeah, fangirling.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's perfect. You'll probably get to see him then. Yeah, he's looked definitely great. It's insane for, somebody his size to be as agile as he is in professional wrestling.
Some of the flips and shit that he does, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait a minute. This doesn't add up.
And I think it's really cool because one of our guys, Anthony Guttierez, is actually signed with Evolve too. So
he's very good.
I watched a lot of him, and he's doing so amazing, and like he's looking so good at Evolve, and I really think that like he'll be like kind of up there at NXT pretty soon. Like they'd be stupid if they didn't. He's such an exciting wrestler, and he builds himself well. He has all the promos, so I'm really excited to watch him kind of progress as well.
Yeah, I'm always seeing those clips on Twitter, and he's definitely very, very good at that. A multi-talented man, that Sharkbait.
Oh, 100%.
All right, Megan, before I let you go here, I've got somewhat of a silly little mystery to solve, okay? And this has been driving my OCD crazy since I first discovered it, all right? Okay. But do you ever check out Tapology at all?
Sometimes.
Okay. Have you looked at your own page?
Not in a while.
Okay. So on Tapology, it says that your fight with Janae Harding was an amateur fight, but that fight was after your pro debut. And for her, it was her first fight, whether that's pro or amateur. And I've never heard of somebody going pro then amateur, which is pretty much what that says you did. So that's an error on Tapology's part, right?
So my first 3 fights were actually amateur fights, but they were put on my pro record. So my first fight with Zoe Shywise, Janae Harding, and Terry Barrett are all amateur fights.
Okay.
So, but what happened is they were all put on my pro card, and that wasn't her first fight. That was her second fight, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, according to Tapology.
I thought she had a fight before that, but I don't know. It's been so long. But I think what happened was her management, because when they were trying to promote her to certain companies, she didn't have the best record, so they petitioned to have those taken off and removed and put on as amateurs.
Okay. So kind of a mix-up there.
So technically, I'm only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 3. Yeah. I'm only 7 and 3 as a pro.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, this does not make any sense to me. How is that possible? So
Yeah,
I had to figure
and
that
that's the
out.
thing is like I don't know. I just think that's kind of bullshit when people try to do that. I was like, I've been dealing with that my entire career. Like that's been on my record for my entire career. Like, yeah, I have losses, but like they're losses. What are you gonna what is taking them off your record gonna do?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's
like
funny.
I think that's just people being little bitches. But whatever.
Hey, it is what it is.